Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to our final Artifact Remix Premiere Draft this time around. This is a fun, goofy little format with a bunch of artifacts from all over Arena shoved into one set. We do keep everything we draft. Yeah, outside of that, it's just a normal Premiere Draft. Without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one with several pretty fun options. Honestly, this format's pretty aggressive, so I think it'd be perfectly fine to just take Arcbound Prototype, 2 mana 2/2 that moves its counters to another artifact creature when it dies. If you want to play real simple and make sure you have just a decent deck, just drafting any aggressive pile with cards like Arcbound Prototype is going to work pretty well. But you could also go super bold with the very late game Dance the Mance you can use with like a bunch of Chromatic Star style cards and stuff. Or alternatively, you can go for a Clue Mill deck with Fleeting Memories, and that's what I'm going to do here since I haven't had an opportunity to do it this time around, and that was one of my most fun memories of this format. The first time that it was around was a Green Blue Mill deck where I managed to have a card that you could tap it and sack any number of clues to do something, and I had like 2 copies of Fleeting Memories on board with that, to where I just like sacked 5 clues, and I was just like, all right, mill 30, you know. So we're going to go for some Fleeting Memories nonsense if we can do that again this time around. And green blue is the color pair with the most clue tokens for cards like Fleeting Memories. So it's nice that the strongest card in this pack also happens to be in green, because Ridgescale Tuster, 5 mana 5/5 on curve that puts a permanent +1/+1 counter on your whole board. It's pretty massive. So probably the strongest card in the pack, and I'm happy to take it. Pick number 3, there's an Erdwall Illuminator. Worst case scenario, with 2 mana, 1/3 flyer is not a terrible deal as a blocker, but it's going to add to your investigation. So every time you make a clue token, instead you're making 2. So Erdwall Illuminator is pretty sweet here, and obviously fits with the Fleeting Memories plan. Certainly safer to take one of these colorless cards like Mortar Pod, that's great at clearing out 1 toughness cards, Scrapwork Mutt that has an excellent unearth effect and is just solid value up front. And Bone Splitter fits pretty well in any deck with some good flyers or lifelinkers or anything like that. Token production also goes great with Bone Splitter. So there's some really safe, real strong colorless options here. But I'm going to do what you probably should not do in these artifact drafts and just like lock in on an archetype quick. Generally, you should take these really good flexible colorless cards, because sure, they might be a little bit weaker than the colored cards for their respective strategies, but because they fit into any deck, they leave you open to taking whatever looks the most open over time and getting rewarded with some powerful cards later. Speaking of that, pick 4 has 2 incredible black cards, the Witch's Vanity and Candy Grapple. It also has the incredible flexible Vault Scourge. You just shove this into anything in this format, just pay the 2 life to cast it instead of the black mana. And it's a 1 mana 1/1 flying lifelink for any deck, which is great with Bone Splitter. It's great with +1/+1 counters. Just great with everything. So 2 incredible black removal spells for cheap, 1 fantastic colorless card, and nothing for green blue clues. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take the flexible card this time around just because it could still go in our green blue deck. If I'm lucky. We might be getting pushed off that, and I would be sad, but um, then I have a flexible card I put into any other archetype with this Vault Scourge. Pick 5, nothing great here. Again, nothing really for green blue. Opportunist would be fine. You can use that Power Stone to help crack your clues and everything, and it's a 3 mana 3/2 on curve, and you can use that for artifacts too. I guess Opportunist makes the most sense towards green blue, but I actually think Arcbound Mouser is pretty strong out of white. 1 mana 1/1 lifelink, when it dies, put its +1/+1 counter elsewhere. If most of your creatures are artifact creatures, it's actually pretty sweet. I'm actually going to take Mouser. Start being a little open here, as we're not seeing great clue options in almost any of these packs recently. Yet again, really no great clue options. Reverse Engineer is probably closest. You can improvise with all your clue tokens to make this cheaper to cast, but it's certainly no direct synergy. I'll just grab an Ornithopter of Paradise so we can play anywhere. Pick 7, Emergency Welt's pretty great. Weirding Wood is our clue card. Not a super duper good one anyway. Yeah, I'll still go for it. Emergency Weld, great in any black deck specifically. So it's not great anywhere. You do have to be in the right color at least. Okay, I don't like anything out of Pick 8. These are all poopy cards. Iron Apprentice is just pretty much just a worse mouser most of the time. Because you draft around the mouser, make sure all your creatures are artifact creatures. So this is like a mouser that doesn't have lifelink. Just take a Mist Vault Bridge. Pick 9. Pretty poopy. Grab another dual land. Grab another dual land. Well, Bioway Courier is reasonable for the clue deck, but I'm not seeing any of the big build arounds, which is what we need to see kind of late. Still take the Courier though. Easy Bone Splitter. Blood Fountain. And pack 2, either open up some good clue cards or we start moving to some like Orzhov aggro deck or something. These are not good clue cards. Yeah, that dream might not be happening. Take another Vault Scourge. I probably shouldn't be taking Vault Scourge over like Fatal Push, Mortar Pod, Rebel Salvo, but I really like Vault Scourge. And 2 copies of Vault Scourge makes this a fantastic Bone Splitter deck. And it makes our strongest cards for now all colorless, so we're still a little flexible for whatever. Maybe like green-white, +1/+1 counters, black-white, aggro. Yeah, I'm just going to take a Vault Scourge and just see what happens from here. It does not look like we are a clue deck. Pack 2, pick 2. Arcbound Prototype, fantastic with Vault Scourge. When it dies, you put its counters onto the Scourge, obviously. And we can have all of our threats be artifact creatures, which that'd be 4 artifact creature threats. Then every modular card gets even better. However, green-white +1/+1 counters is also having a good time with this pack, as we have the Ridgescale Tusker in our deck already, and we can slam a Malphus Revolutionary in there too. 3 mana, 3/3 trample. It's much less consistent in actually putting a counter on the board because you need other permanents with counters on them. It doesn't do it by itself. But it is good. Yeah, Tusker is actually probably good enough to try to stay a little glued to green here, just maybe taking it a different direction than clues. Yeah, now Arcbound Prototype for green-white +1/+1s. We could be green-black as well, but green-black's like a really good food deck. But we're just seeing a lot of good black removal spells. I feel like our green synergizes a lot more with the white with +1/+1 counters and stuff than it would with black. But the black cards we're seeing are better than the white cards we're seeing, so it's a little awkward here, but I'm going to try to do the green-white here. Arcbound Prototype now. Daneth is fine to put a Bone Splitter onto, or +1/+1 counters onto. Woodland Champion, if you have treasure tokens, food tokens, clue tokens, anything like that, it's another good +1/+1 counter card. Grows pretty big, pretty fast. These 2 are definitely awesome options. I go for the Danitha here. I like Bone Splitter a lot. Maybe we can throw even more in here. Pick 5. Ariet's Tempting Apple. Oh, Ulvenwald Mysteries! Whenever a non-token creature dies, investigate. When you sack clues, make 1/1s. There's the Wave Sifters too. I already decided to just veer off in a completely different direction. I think we're going to stick to our +1/+1 counter aggro. I actually don't mind the Scrounger. That's a splashable Unearth effect. Just a 2 mana 3/2 artifact creature to play aggressively, and you can move your modular counters over to it with your cards like Prototype and Mouser. And then we can just make sure to take a couple Dark Moss Bridges and stuff to have a couple random black sources in the deck. There's an Ornithopter Paradise in here as well if we need it. A Weirding Wood if we need it. Yeah. Green-white, splash a tiny bit of black for that Unearth. Looks like the deck. Pick 7. Oh, wow, the green-black food deck was open. Jesus. Taste of Death still here, pick 7. Looks like a good Explorer's Cache or Servant of the Scale deck, though. Go Servant of the Scale curve out here. Pick 8. Poopy nonsense. Gothian Sprite, I guess. Pick 9, Mortar Pod is kind of criminal. Card's a lot better than it looks. Another Dark Moss Bridge for the Unearth. Gaia's Gift's actually a really sweet combat trick that synergizes well with +1/+1 counter abilities. So I'll start taking those. Oh my god, pick 11 Confectioner? I didn't take the Taste of Death, though. Man, yeah, if I took the Taste of Death, we could have been on that green-black pivot. Just fully at that point. Pack 3, pick 1. Here's a Cloud Guard. Wheel that bridge. Seems these. Citizen's Rest gets some actually good removal in this deck. Another Arcbound prototype looking fantastic. Still want a couple more artifact creatures to get those really consistent, but the card looks strong. Oh, we got the Botanical Brawler build around uncommon here. Whenever +1/+1 counters are put onto another permanent this turn, you get to put a counter on the Brawler as well. Super gross. Thing gets real big real fast. Pick 5. We want more artifact creatures, and Justiciar is a good one for throwing those counters onto. Probably drop the Ornithopter Paradise at this point to get really aggressive. We have 2 lands in here, so this is 22 non-lands. We need a couple more non-lands before we can cut the Ornithopter. But we'll want to cut the Ornithopter and the Weirding Wood, and just play cards that affect the board, that get attacks and blocks in, that get aggressive. Looks like anywhere in the Abzan direction would have been sweet in this draft. Particularly, again, that green-black food. If I was more open to a pivot there and more flexible with the way I drafted, that probably would have ended up being our strongest archetype. Pick 6 Vault Scourge! Woo! There was a Mouser there too, that would have been nice. It's a really good pack. This is 23 non-lands. Tempting Apple's a fine finisher, gets their last blocker out of the way, and then it also shoots them for 3. And when it gets the blocker out of the way and hits them with it too. Big surprise lethal kind of card. Okay, cut the Weirding Wood. Now just add another creature, cut an Ornithopter, and get into the gameplay. Come on, drafters. Let's get in there. We could have stuck green-blue the whole time as well. We found a Wave Sifters, like a Wave Sifter or two somewhat late. Found the thing that makes 1/1s when you crack clues. We would have had a fine green-blue clue deck, but I feel like the deck's only good when it like super comes together, and this wasn't a draft pod for it to super come together. Like there was another Illuminator and stuff, but we didn't get multiple copies of Fleeting Memories or one of the like really good like Lonus style rares for the deck. And those were the big misses there. But yeah, if we were the food deck, we just gotta pick 10 Food Wolf there. I forgot the name of the Food Wolf, but it makes a food, and then you can do stuff with it later. You can sack the food to buff it and stuff like that. All right, we pretty much made the deck as we drafted, but we do get a couple cuts here. Which likely goes to some non-creatures. Honestly, maybe Mortar Pod for this deck. We're so +1/+1 oriented. 17 creatures and a Mortar Pod. We have basically 18 creatures. So I only really want to cut 1. Yeah, maybe triple Gaia's Gift's a bit much. We can cut one Gaia's Gift and one creature and or mortar pod. I don't know. Mortar pod's still pretty cute. I kind of want to play around with it. I'll cut like our Gothian Sprite. And on the job or Gaia's Gift. I could cut a land. Pretty low curve. Yeah, we'll do that. Play with all the nonsense. 993. What does it say? 3 black? Oh, because Vault Scourge. Yeah, that doesn't count. Guess I'm going to have slightly more of one color than the other, because right now I'm on 9 green sources, 9 white. Oh, wait, no, we can just make it even. There. 8 white, 8 green. Boom. Yep. Looks beautiful, looks pretty strong, and we'll see how the +1/+1 counters play out for us as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are for game 1. Just curve out. No artifacts swap the Justicia is kind of surprising and sad. But I still think I play it before Brawler if I don't have any other +1/+1 counter cards in hand either. No artifacts or +1/+1 counters is going to be a rarity for this deck. I guess there's one artifact out of the Cloud Guard. Yep, and that is neither +1/+1 counter or artifact synergy. Let's just start draining some life. Feels better. Rakdos from our opponent. Some good ways to sacrifice artifacts, creatures, and steal creatures and stuff like that. Batterfist is excellent, the archetype, giving you 2 permanents to sack. Just Denethud up, I believe. Offer this little trade here, because that's a 3 toughness blocker, or sorry, a 3 power blocker, so it's going to trade into Justice here, even if I double trigger 2 artifacts onto the battlefield in 1 turn. Phyrexian Fleshgorger. The ward is just 3 life, right? Yeah, so we're just going to Citizen the rest of that. Let's do that immediately to shut off any of their lifelink of their own. Luckily, the life payments are very affordable for us. Unluckily, I mean, they're on Rakdos, so it shouldn't matter. But if they do get rid of Citizen's Arrest, this comes back as a 7/5. But because they're Rakdos, we're not really worried about that. Alright, Perilous Mirror Deadly Dispute is a gross combo to clear Daneth out of here. It's pretty tragic. Ooh, but speaking of gross combos, Oltec Cloud Guard Ridgescale Tusker is good. I mean, Brawler Tusker is also good. Does mean this Tusker is just going to be sitting in our hand if I try to get the Brawler out first, too. Might have to just play Tusker now, just for efficiency. Depends on the draw. On the job, it kind of feels like I have to just jam it down. Sorry, Botanical Brawler. Just curve out faster. Get damage in. Yeah, they're down to 12. And this could let me curve out next turn. If I hit a land, I can Brawler and on the job. I guess if I hit a Plains specifically. Sweet Tooth Witch. That gains 3 life for our opponent. Ooh, attack. Absolutely will take it. This means on the job's more likely to find a kill here. Byway Courier, let's just see. Probably doesn't, but it could. They're at 15 life. Oh, well, if I get to kill both of these without losing Tusker, it's certainly worth it. Oh no, can the Nexus buff itself, though? I don't remember. Target Blink Moth creature gets... It can buff itself. But they didn't. Because they would have had to crack the treasure. That was almost really bad. But they didn't buff it, so we're good. Yeah, I forgot about that. Blinkmoth Nexus is kind of a classic card, so I guess I probably should know better, but I never play Constructed, so as much as I've heard of Blinkmoth Nexus and Inkmoth Nexus and stuff, I don't actually really know what they do outside of becoming a 1/1 till end of turn. Turns out they can buff themselves on blocks, not just other ones. So that could have been worse for me, but still all worked out perfectly well, and we're 1-0 heading into game 2. Maybe I'll pay a little more attention here, read their cards a little more. All right, here we are on the play for game 2. I'm not a fan of the curve, but it's got all of our colors. And we get things rolling by being on the play. Justiciar makes the curve infinitely better. That is helpful. Actually putting a creature on the board turn 2. Our Gothian Sprite from our opponent. We can just trade here and it's fine. No +1/+1 counters to go with the Revolutionaries, a little rough. Hope to find one of our modular cards soon. Nope, we find a massive amount of Flood. We just have to play a 3-mana 3/3 trample, which is honestly not the worst ever, because we have the Bone Splitter, so we can make it a 5/3 trample, and the trample is actually pretty relevant at that point. Gaia's Gift. Well, there we go. Now the death trigger on Revolutionary sort of maybe matters a little. They're down to 9. They did not want to go for any blocks there. Surprising. Sunder Shaman. Whenever it damages us, it blows up one of our artifacts or enchantments. I love that card in this set. It's going to blow up our Bone Splitter. Pretty gross. Nothing I can do about that. Oh, no, they're just going to hold that up as a 6/6. All right, sure. Arc-bound Prototype. That's something, I guess. Nothing great, but it's something. All right, jam for 5. Let's go. Put them to 4. Draw a card. Dark Moss Bridge. You don't really do anything. Gloomhulk. Buff both those creatures. That is super bad for me. Just looking for our flyers off the top here. If we can find one of our 3 Vault Scourges, that'll be a way to get lethal. Our 3/2 flyer would be even safer because it's not an artifact, so they can't blow it up with Sunder Shaman. But really, we just need to take to the skies. There we go. There we go. One hit from a Vault Scourge will get there because of this Gaia's Gift. So we know the plan. No reach creatures on their board. If they attack in, I can chump with Prototype, and then Scourge is lethal without the Gaia's Gift. Oh, slam dunk chump. I guess this is pretty disgusting if they have a trample trick, but there's no way we can block around a trample trick here. Because we can't block it with more than one creature, and even if we could, it would have too much power to get through all of our toughness. Okay, 1 lethal Vault Scourge in the sky coming up. Nice try. You're going to need another removal spell. Washi Song Shaper is not a reach creature. And Vault Scourge MVP? Vault Scourge MVP. We're 2-0 heading into game 3. Alright, here we are on the play for game 3. We have Brawler into Revolutionary, which is okay. It'll make it a 3-3 trample, but it doesn't, like, trigger Brawler's ability to get another counter or anything like that. It's a fine start. Already a little floody here, 5 lands this early. Deadly Dispute from our opponent, some good card draw. Green-black deck, very good defensive deck. Hey, there's an Arcbound prototype. That's going to go well with the Brawler, get another counter on it next turn. While still curving out and slamming a Mortar Pod down. Sweet Tooth Witch, hello there. I'm going to attack in with a 4-4 trample and you're not going to matter. Ooh, and I can Tempting Apple you later. Super cute. If Revolutionary trades into Witch, I trample over for 1 and put another counter on Brawler. Brawler has already triggered once per turn, so if they trade Revolutionary into Witch now, and I try to put another counter on Prototype, Brawler's not going to trigger again, because the additional counter thing is once per turn. If it's the first time, +1/+1 counters have been put on that permanent. So +1/+1 counters have already been put on Prototype this turn, so if I Revolutionaried another onto it, it wouldn't give Brawler a 5th counter. Those two have already done their 1 counter of synergy for the turn. Epic Confrontation. Have them fight. Well, they'll both die. Sure. That's a 2-for-1. Play a big blocker and Tempting Apple win. Play a big blocker, Tempting Apple win. That is 3-0. This format is aggressive. Who needs interactive magic when you can end games on turn 5? Boop. The Mortar Pod lethal too. The disrespect. That is 3-0 heading into game 4. Alright, game 4. We are on the play a lot today. My lord. This is a slower hand though, nothing till turn 3 again. We're not drawing our 1-drops almost at all today. It's kind of sad. Well, there's Bone Splitter to say hello. Guess that sort of counts. I think the only 1-drop we drew was like a, outside of Bone Splitter, was like a turn 5 or 6 Vault Scourge or something. Really want those in the opener, and we are not finding them then. Ooh, opponent kept a 2-lander. They're just slamming creatures all over the board with that. Alright, well, I've got a Bone Splittered up Xanatha to just go pretty wild with. Should be really hard for them to race, even with all these threats they can play. We have drawn our 4th green source before our 2nd white, so this Citizen's Arrest is just going to be sitting here for a while. Never mind, there's the white source. Although there's nothing to really arrest right now anyway. Send in the squad. There's also nothing to put a counter on with Revolutionary. So jam. If Courier dies, draw a card off it. Demand answers. Sack and draw 2, counter the life gain, sure. Well, no value revolutionary has arrived. Just the Twampler. The revolutionary, just to be clear, only adds counters. It does not remove counters. That would be super sweet if it did, like the camel from Amonkhet Remastered. They're still on 2 mana. Yo, this is crazy. Well, I mean, to balance things out, we are kind of flooding. I mean, not kind of. We've got 7 mana. This deck does not ever need 7 mana. We're legitimately flooding. Alright, cool. At least we get to draw a card off this courier now. Find a Vault Scourge. Not a bad one at all. I can get to hardcast it, which is cute. There's land 3 from our opponent. Pass the turn. Let's see what you got. Disenchant the Scourge. Yeah. Still a lot of damage. They go to 5. And here's another one. Twashi Song Shaper. I should probably just Bone Splitter up the Trampler at this point. Yeah, with them at 5. If I exile the 2 toughness creature and Bone Splitter the Trampler, they're just dead no matter what, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% confident, but pretty sure. And just in case they're not, I can drop Prototype, so when Revolutionary dies, we get more counters. But I think this is lethal. Yeah, that's lethal. Cool. Not too much of a game for our opponent. They were just really stuck on mana on that one, but we will take it. That means we remain undefeated 4-0 heading into game 5. All right. We finally drew a 1-drop, but I'm probably not going to play it turn 1 because I want to play Brawler turn 2, which means playing the tap land turn 1. Is what it is. Still looks like a pretty great hand, especially on the draw here to make sure that we can find those lands in our first draw steps. Uh-oh. Mouser of their own. A Mouser, but they're on the play. Do not follow it up with the Arcbound 2/2. Oh. Well, they didn't follow it up with the Arcbound 2/2, but Steel Overseer is somehow infinitely worse. Steel Overseer, one of the most busted rares in this format. Real easy to draft around it and have this just put a counter on your entire board, including itself, every time you tap it, which is really broken with the modular mechanic. That means when the creature dies, you move its counter somewhere else. I mean, this just looks like a Steel Overseer auto win if we don't hit Plains 2. I mean, even if we do, it's already given them so much value. And that's not Plains 2. We may just be dead, folks. Might be a quick loss to break our undefeated record. None of our lines look remotely good here. We can have a 3/3 trample and make the Brawler a 3/3. We can play a Mouser and make the Brawler a 3/3, or we can play a Danitha and have 2 2/2s. Guess I just go Revolutionary, at least I can attack in that way, but we're never outracing the lifelink from the Mouser, especially when it's about to be 3 lifelink this turn. And now Steel Overseer is at minimum 4 +1/+1 counters. Oh my god, the Bloom Hulk 2. Literal Magic Christmas land curve. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. 2 of them are rares. One of them puts counters on the whole board, and the other proliferates all those counters. I can't even block here because they just make Mouser a 4/4 anyway, and Revolutionary dies without trading. Alright. Completely unwinnable, uninteractive game of Magic. But so were some of our wins. That'll balance it out a little bit. We are 4-1 heading into game number 6. Uh-oh. Game 6 on the draw again. If this is anything like last time, that's a very bad omen. We actually have our 1-drop in hand, so it's time to get crushed. Okay, against the 1/2, Mouser's very bad, so we actually start with Vault Scourge. Playing against blue-white, and Drafna's a pretty slow rare, so this looks fine right now. Ooh, Bone Splitter on the Vault Scourge. You know what? Show me the removal like right now, or we're just going to ride a single Vault Scourge all the way to victory. Can Mortar Pot away the Drafna before it gets to do anything, which is sweet. No, the Citizen's Arrest. At least they had the Citizen's Arrest a 1-drop. Now I can Mouser Mortar Pod. Yup. Goodbye, Drafna. Get out of my life. Corsair Captain. No other pirates right now, so just a 2/2 and a treasure token. Cool. Bone Splitter on Mouser is pretty fantastic here. Trade and buff the prototype. It is like a little better the other way around. Make the lifelinker bigger, but this is still good. They need to show me another removal spell now. Ancestral Blade, also not a pirate. Just this year, not a pirate. Yep, just some stuff. Scrounger Mortarpod is kind of cute. If we find the black source later. Okay, I need to put Scrounger on board, so if Prototype trades off, we still get the 3+1/+1 counters out of it, and then we have a 6/5 Scrounger. Yeah, it's kind of sick. And I can also put a Mortar Pot on it so it has 4 toughness. They have to double block, and I kill 2 creatures. Yeah, that's really good. Kill the 3/2 and the 1/1, and then make a juicy Scrounger. Right, take the 5, they're down to 12. Ooh, Thraben Inspector is the top deck's pretty good. Get another creature on board and still draw the next card, and get more lifelink out of Justiciar. Yeah, that's actually super good here. More lifelink, get a 1/2 on board, and still draw the next card anyway. Justiciar is an issue. Jam, jam, jam. Monoscallion. Wow. Really needed them to not be able to kill Vault Scourge in response to me sacking here. Oh, they didn't see the line. We're fine. Oh, I should have killed their Scallion. Obviously, kill the thing that has abilities. I was just already so locked in on killing the 1/1. I forgot to kill the better one. Alright, well, Monoscallion was going to really annoy me because then I couldn't do my little modular trick nonsense. But then they just played into letting me do that and get extra value out of it that I wasn't even planning on getting. Well, I still have on the job up. If they don't block at all, I guess we just on the job and kill them. And they just are over it. They don't want to see me gain 6 more life. They are tired of the nonsense. And that is game. We are 5-1. Yeah, 5-1, all the way in the money for our final Premier Remix Draft artifacts. No matter what, we are leaving with more gems than we paid in. All right, opponents on the play here. We don't start till turn 3, but I really love Ridge Scale Tusker, so I am hoping our draws include some 2-mana creatures, another 3-mana creature, so we can go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop. Nope. Our draws are pretty bad. Oh god, our draws are really, really bad. That was 3 incredibly late game draws in a row. Land, Gaia's Gift, Apple. None of these are relevant early. Our opponent has the incredible Bankbuster card draw engine just rolling out here. And a Vat of Rebirth for if the game goes long. Alright, there we go. That makes up for it. That was probably like the only draw in our deck that could make up for us hitting a lot of late game plays and not getting the wide board for Tusker. Well, there you go. That's a 4-drop that single-handedly gives us a wide board for the Ridge Scale Tusker. So that is super fine. Again, we could have either drawn, a 2-drop and a 1-drop to play on turn 2 and turn 4, or just hit a single Cloud Guard. So I am happy to hit the single Cloud Guard. Alright, Candy Grapple the Cloud Guard. That would have killed it even with a +1/+1 counter on it, so super fine. Courier trades into Minstrosity here. What's the crew on this? Crew 3 for a 4/4. I guess I can only send in Courier then, because otherwise they crew the Bankbuster and eat the 2/2 for free. But Courier trading into either of these is pretty fine. Get that clue token. Next turn I get to play a Danitha and cast a gift, and then the turn after that I'll play an Apple and cast a gift. Which is why I'm cool with trading creatures off, even with gifts in hand. I can fit the gifts into the curve very well in the future. If we find a turn where a guy's gift isn't going to be profitable, well, in theory, then I could crack the clue instead of playing the gift. But they just straight up kill my creature and hold no blocks up, so we're not even going to gift this turn then. Tap out for a gigantic creature, please. Tap out for stuff I can kill with Gaia's Gift, and then next turn tap out for a giant creature that I can use to kill you. Oh no. This does not look like a good matchup for Tempting Apple. A lot of tokeny nonsense going on. The Bankbuster's about to spit out a pilot token. The hidden stockpile makes a 1/1 servo every turn. I just sit here gaining life, Vat of Rebirthing back like 3/1s. Yeah, there's just like no good Tempting Apple targets coming up anytime soon. It's going to be chump blocks for days. At least Gaia's Gift is still going to be relevant because we get every keyword in the book. So we do get Trample, to trample over the little tokens. Okay, Tempting Apple on a 3/2 flyer is not the worst ever, at least. But, god, they had so much time to set up here. The whole Rube Goldberg machine is set. And I didn't hit a land, so I can't Apple and play a creature here. So we'll just Gaia's Gift and play a creature. Cool. don't really need to block anytime soon, but if I hit a black source, Scrounger can come back. So is it better to save Scrounger or the servo? I feel like it's still on average better to just save the Scrounger because it's just bigger. And we trample for 1 more damage for this turn. It just feels unlikely we hit the black source. There's only like 2 in the deck, and both of them come into play tapped anyway, so it's going to be a long time before I'm picking up the Scrounger regardless. Yep, Vat of Rebirth nonsense is ready. But it's just for a monstrosity at least. 1 mana, 2/2 flyer, draw 2 cards. That's not busted at all. Very fair and balanced rate. This is why they're never using Affinity again in Standard. Apple of their own with sacrifice outlets like Hidden Stockpile. Man. Just gonna Deadly Dispute it instead. Might as well. Infinite cards worth of advantage. Several repeatable value plays on board like Vat of Rebirth and Bankbuster. I do not see any combination of cards that is going to break through for lethal here against this gigantic stack of stuff they're still doing. Yep, I'm just going to move on to the next game here. That is 5-2, heading into round number 8. Alright, here we are for game 8, Forced Mulligan, Terrible Mana. This is keepable, but also floodable. We'll see how it does, but we are curving out 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. Let's go. Ooh, Gaia's Gift with this many creatures in the opener is actually not bad. Also makes the Revolutionary potentially do something when it dies, because it's not going to do anything when it enters. Gixian Infiltrator. She don't mind just blowing the Gaia's Gift early here for Revolutionary to put a counter on Justiciar. But they didn't block, so we'll just play Courier. Horror's Cash. Make the Infiltrator bigger, but still not good enough to block well. So we're still fine. Cool. That's a buff on Justiciar for the turn. Send in. I will gift if they block again, just so that when I play Revolutionary it does something, but if they don't block, they're at 9 life. We have to just keep the pressure on, keep the threats hitting the board. Bloom Hulk. Alright, 2 relatively big blockers, but a Gaia's Gift at the right spot might turn into lethal here, depending on how they block. Probably not. I mean, unless they just don't block at all. But it'll hit for enough damage and leave enough creatures on board to get a 2-turn lethal. So just block both the 3-power creatures, right? We let the Revolutionary die, but we save the Courier? Or the other way around, because the Courier draws a card. Actually, don't know. Okay, if they do this, then the option is made for us. Okay, if they do that, we have to choose. I like drawing a card more than getting another counter on the board, honestly. Even though the Infiltrator is going to be massive. I should play the planes first, so any 1-drop in the deck's castable. Didn't matter, we hit a 3-drop, luckily. Sweet Tooth Witch. Comes with a gain 3. Annihilating Glare to kill the Revolutionary. I'm happy with them killing the Revolutionary than the Vault Scourge, at least. Because their board is getting more than big enough to where the only way I'm getting damage in is in the sky now. We're just looking for flyers and bone splitters at this point. We gotta find them kind of fast, though, because they're dealing like 10 damage a turn on attacks. The board has gotten large over there. Botanical Brawler is not anything I'm looking for right now. Fortunately, no artifacts. All I need is a single artifact to attack with Justiciar there. That's kind of sad to miss then, because that was probably like our last opportunity for their stuff to be small enough for that attack. They're still at 5 though, so maybe even though their stuff is really big, they have to hold it back anyway just because we're starting to get to the point where we'll have more attackers than they have blockers if they attack too much. Break through for that lethal when they're only at 5 life. Okay, not a good draw. They have nothing in hand. Block, take 3. Still not worth chump attacking with 2 creatures. Scream Puff. That's all 3 blockers they need on the ground now. There's the Bone Splitter. It's a sweet one. One more turn till they're dead in the sky. And I can actually hold up a pretty good blocker on the ground. 5 power. It's enough to kill anything they have on board right now. And it would trade off and then we draw a card. Final opportunity for a reach creature, a flyer, or a food token from our opponent. Or removal works too. It's their final draw step here. And they missed. We are officially 6-2 heading into the final battle of today's draft. This will be the last game of Magic, win or lose. All right, here's the final game of Magic. We're on the draw for this one. We've got really good mana. We have Danitha for a free Bone Splitter. Turn 3. So I can play Danitha and then Bone Splitter for 0 to trigger Justiciar. That should be fun. I guess I need to hit another untapped land to do that, because I want to play an untapped land to play the Justiciar on turn 2. Ooh, or the Mortar Pot on turn 2. I don't want to lose to the exact same bomb rare twice in a row, especially when it's like the best one in the format. So let's Mortar Pod the Overseer. Get that out of here, or so help me. Botanical Brawler, also a massive issue. Nothing to deal with that. Let's play Servant and Justiciar, and then next turn I can double Artifact for Justiciar by playing Danitha and a free Bone Splitter for the double buff. Yeah, our only way to kill Brawler would be to have 4 mana up and sack 2 creatures, which would be really bad. Ew, speaking of really bad, Captured by Lagax is insane with Brawler. That's 3 +1/+1 counters on their board and just a permanent removal spell. Completely disgusting. Yeah, it's probably just it. Captured by Legax, like the best common in the format. Which actually, I didn't even realize till now we're on a green-white deck with no Captured by Legax. Probably be like a trophy deck with some Captured by Legax in it, but 6 and 3, still pretty beautiful, especially for how the draft went. I mean, we bounced around a lot, and I don't think this was the most open archetype in the end either. This is still just a real solid run. Yeah, we're just so dead to their brawler. It's not even funny. I mean, I'm gaining a lot of life here, so there's the slightest possibility. I can't outrace our life gain. Alright, well, we lose. Because they have a combat trick in hand, but they played it right to not do it until I try to do something. So I do this, they respawn, kill Danathan, we die. Because if I don't do this right now, we die anyway. What's a guy's gift of their own? Yep, that saves the brawler. Alright, well, we would have lost to guy's gift either way, actually. In that exchange, whether they did it before or after ours wouldn't have mattered. The 3/3 lifelink is certainly the most annoying, but we're gaining 6 a turn, so I think we're fine. To take out the brawler, right? That's the most likely to, like, get us. Skinner for +1/+1 counter on Scourge again. 4/4 flying lifelink. And then if they get one more card type towards the Lyrium in their grave, they have artifacts, creatures, instants, so they need a sorcery or an enchantment in grave or a land. But if they get there, then Skinner takes over the game, putting a +1/+1 counter on the board every upkeep. Well, they put the counter on itself. Oh, for Courage and Crisis. Yeah, that's very good. 6. Oh, and that's the sorcery too? Jesus Christ. Okay. Seems good. Yeah, I need 6 mana up to blow up anything with this. So this Skinner just gets to be active for 2 turns. Because I can't blow it up till much later. Yeah, if I don't top deck a land, I can't even do it anyway. Yeah, no, this Skinner is just so stupid here. Alright. That ended surprisingly infinitely closer than I thought possible, but their deck is just insane. Very, very well drafted from our opponent. They were in the strongest archetype, and it was wide open. Up in there with Steel Overseer and Brawler, and the very important Captured by Legax, alongside the Vault Scourgy cards to put the counters onto, the Skinner for counters every single turn. Wild stuff. Yep, put the counter on the Skinner itself, and now, fashionably late, I can't kill it. So I can't kill anything on their board. Oh, this is like as frustrating as possible. Decks of Saw Blades too. So of course the millisecond I unequip the ability to sack the Scrounger, they just blow it up off the top. At least it doesn't kill Danitha, because if Danitha dies, it's just over. Completely. It's basically already completely over, but, you know. Well, there's no other creatures in my grave anyway for the Scrounger. Gross. Alright, I'm good there. I'm good there. 6 and 3 is more than enough. We were already in the money, and that deck was wild. 6 and 3 it will be for the final Artifact Remix draft. Yeah. Really solid showing for that deck with how bouncy we were during the draft. I don't think I drafted this one particularly well. But we ended up in a really strong archetype with a lot of strong cards and still get a 6-win run here. Really showed off a lot of the kind of more boring kind of flaws of the format of it just being hyper aggressive. And just like, yeah, let me just dump these out and jam for damage and that'll work, right? It did work. It did work despite not drafting the most synergistic or most open deck in the draft pod. We can just aggro out a bunch of cheap free wins. And yeah, it's most of what our opponents did. We did have that one loss against the deck that was like a Rube Goldberg machine with all the different nonsense. All the non-creature artifacts on board that were sitting there making servos and reanimating things from grave and that stuff. That was the spiciest deck. But as far as I remember, our other losses were just like, yeah, here's Steel Overseer, Bomber, +1/+1 counter nonsense. Here's Botanical Brawler captured by Legax, +1/+1 counter nonsense. Double Scanner as well. Yep. Generic +1/+1 counter aggro, much like we were doing here. Fair enough. 6 and 3 is the final record. We leave the event with 1,800 gems, couple packs of Bloomburrow, a pack of Wilds, March Machine, and a third pack of Bloomburrow. It's a lot of Bloomburrow. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.